Hello and welcome to episode 21 of Hybrid Fitness Report. My name is Paul Reynolds. This week we have two interviews for you. So we had three last week, a couple this week. First up is Ethan Deep, who is the new DEKA Fit Under 24 World Champion. He talks to us. And then also Jude has a chat with my dad, his granddad, discussing all things Hyrox and also 40 years of staying in shape and his current 6 days a week workout regime and his part in our family, three-generation family Hyrox Relay that we had last year in London and the prospects of revisiting that. So I hope you enjoy the show. First off, I do want to give a shout out to our friends from WoDLETE. This podcast and our show is sponsored by WoDLETE, founded by an Ironman athlete with a passion for functional fitness. WoDLETE clothing is designed to be with you throughout your fitness journey, from starting out to competing, from beginner to elite, and with clothing and accessories to help you on your journey. Go to wodlete.co.uk, that's WODLETE.co.uk for global shipping and free delivery on all UK orders over £50. Use code HFRPOD20, that's HFRPOD20 at checkout for 20% off your order. And then, as I said, first up is Ethan Deep, who describes himself as a generalist in fitness, which does him really a great disservice because he's kind of amazing at a whole bunch of things. Enjoy. Are you injured at the moment? You got any empathy for me here at all, or are you just kind of, young and annoying?
I don't have any empathy at the moment, but knock on wood, hopefully that doesn't change. But I'm in the middle of training for the the Cleveland Marathon, Cleveland, Ohio Marathon. So that's kind of my next big thing. I didn't do a marathon this year. Did a ton of other running for other things, but wanted to kind of get back to it. So that's in May. So that'll be the next kind of big thing for me.
Okay, so I'm going to use that as a segue to back into one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about. So first of all, I should say welcome Ethan Deep to Hybrid Fitness Report. Great to have you on. Thanks for agreeing to chat with me. I know you only from DEKA. So we met when I was screaming at a guy competing with you 13 months ago, Jude.
Yes.
Where it was I can't remember all of it. It was basically you and AJ Golick and Jude seemed to be well ahead of everybody else. And then you guys kind of swapped around for a while. I think AJ led first. And then didn't you lead at some point in the first 2 or 3 stations?
Yeah, I think I led for the first 2 or 3. AJ took over a little bit after that. And then Jude just kind of came flying past both of us and kind of took over and led the rest of the way. And then AJ kind of closely followed him for second. And I kind of floated off to third.
But you were way ahead of fourth, right? I mean, the three of you are kind of a class apart, if I recall.
That sounds right. I don't remember the exact time, but yeah, that kind of sounds right.
And then I think fourth and fifth had a great race. But it spread out after all. So I met you then, and then after Jude qualified for the elite race at DEKA Fit this year, we knew you, and we were therefore heavily rooting for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
which ended up being quite interesting on various stations. So Jude and I were following Ethan round on the course. So him and Zach were again like you and AJ and Jude last year. You and Zach this year are comfortably out in front of everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I was just kind of sort of generally shouting supportive stuff, and Jude was shouting very specific stuff. So what I think the main one, wasn't it, at the last station, the Ram burpees? Jude was screaming at you.
Yeah. He was basically just 45 seconds more work, just 30 seconds more work. Come on, you're almost there. You're a couple reps ahead. And honestly, I needed that. Ram burpees have always been tough for me. Just, whatever my weight is, fluctuating between 205, 210. That has been the hardest station for me, just especially at the ends. Having you guys there kind of cheer me on was super helpful.
It was great watching you and Zach racing. I think there was a lot of empathy with Jude because when he competed at DEKA in the UK for the only qualifying race he went to this year, he was up against a guy called Dave Parkin, who's the world record holder for deadly dozen. And Jude being 6'4", and Dave being about I think 5'8", 5'9". Ramp burpees is a hot mess for Jude compared to Dave. So they came in together, and then Jude lost by 15 seconds. So I think there was a fair degree of empathy running through Jude when he saw you going up against Zach in that station where you just go, okay, long levers is not helping here.
The height difference there was pretty big, and his strength was definitely the runs. I mean, I would come out of the station first, and then he would kind of blow by me in the run. I'd catch up, and in the end, it was kind of the height difference in the bike and the sleds allowed me to kind of get a bit of a lead, and then the ram burpees just had to grind those out.
And how much did I forgot to check, how much did you win by in the end? Because you had to push it. It's not like you kind of sailed through with room to have a cup of coffee afterwards before Zach turned up.
I want to say it was somewhere in the 10 to 20 second range, maybe more on the closer to 15.
Just a few reps, basically.
Yeah, just a few reps. Yeah. There was no time for a stop or a slowdown. It was full gas the whole time.
Yeah, and that's something that Jude says. I mean, do you feel that way when you compare what it's like racing DEKA versus Hyrox? Jude kind of feels like DEKA is it's not a sprint because you can't sprint for half an hour, but you know what I mean. That it kind of feels like you're pushing your zone 5ing it most of the time, whereas Hyrox is a lot more controlled. Is it like that for you?
I think so. In DEKA, especially with the runs, the 500-meter runs, I'm definitely running a little bit faster on the 500-meter runs than in Hyrox. I'm running the 1Ks. I try to be about 2 minutes for the 500-meter runs in DEKA, whether that happens or not. That's just how I perform. Hyrox, I try to keep around 4 minutes, but that ends up being around 4:15 to 4:30. I think those is just harder because it's double the distance. You're doing a lot more exercise with the stations. So yeah, it's definitely more difficult in Hyrox to kind of sustain that. Like the rower, I always use that as a, hey, I need to recover. But in DEKA, it's only 500 meters. So you kind of got to still push a little bit as you would like your normal race pace. Yeah,
I mean, you and Jude are a similar way. You're both kind of units compared to most people doing either of those sports, really. I mean, once, leaving aside DEKA strong and ruck, you can get some bigger people. But in terms of DEKA fit and Hyrox, you two are kind of very similar in packing a lot more muscle than most guys, which leads me backwards. I seem to be going backwards rather than forwards. But help me to understand your athletic journey a little bit, because I just going by Instagram. So let's say I kind of met you at DEKA 2 years in a row, 2 world championships in a row. So I know you from that. And then last year, and to me, you look like a DEKA athlete. And then last year, I started looking at your Instagram and going, hang on a second, 70.3? What?
Yeah.
I mean, so where did you start athletically or sports-wise? And what's been the journey and where are you at now? Because again, thinking about the fact that your next big thing is a marathon, again, I'm going, dude's a unit and he seems to be a lot of hours running.
Yeah, it's I think I just looked at the stats today and I think I was about like 285 hours of running this year. So in high school,
that's
played
huge.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
In high school, I played football and basketball. So primarily I was just a strength athlete. I mean, we did some cardio for just off-season training, but it was always just pushing weights in the gym.
So what position were you at football?
Defensive line.
Right.
So
on the edge or in the middle?
In the middle and on the edge, depending on formation. But I used to weigh about 240 pounds. So that was then, and then come to now, I'm about 205 to 210. Like I just did not need that 30 pounds for life or just anything.
Right.
So I'd always just kind of enjoyed fitness, hitting in the gym. I got into CrossFit, so I do a lot of kind of hero WOD workouts where they have just WODs in memory of like veterans. I always do Murph.
I was just going to say, you do Murph?
Yeah, yep.
Oh boy, okay. What's your time for Murph?
So this year was 36 something with a weight vest.
That's insane. I mean, remind us of exactly what Murph is, because I think perhaps a lot of people listening won't know what Murph is. It's a CrossFit, as Ethan's saying, the hero workouts. They name workouts in memory of people who lost their lives in combat, American soldiers, I think, exclusively.
So it was Lieutenant Michael Murphy. He always had this workout called Body Armor, and it was a 1 mile run. It was 300 air squats, 200 push-ups, and 100 pull-ups, and then a 1 mile run to finish it off. And I'm not sure if he would wear a 20-pound weight vest, but I think he would wear like his rucksack or whatever kind of gear they had in the Army. If you're familiar with The Lone Survivor by Marcus Luttrell, an operation where his whole unit passed Marcus Luttrell as the lone survivor, Michael Murphy kind of sacrificed himself to try and get them to survive. And so then it was kind of created as like a, hey, let's do this every year on what we call Memorial Day in remembrance of the veterans. So that's like big in most of the CrossFit gyms. And then Memorial Day will have a bunch of heats. We'll have the music blasting. We'll have a bunch of different weight vests set out. Everyone at the gym kind of comes in. So it's a fun one.
And then that's a pretty quick time, isn't it?
That is
you're not hanging about.
When I first started doing it, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna rip the run on the first one, and oh my gosh, that was not a great idea, because I did like a 6:30 mile on one of the ones I used to do, and then you go into the push-ups, pull-ups, and squats, and you're just smoked. Like, you can't get that heart rate down. So this year I kind of did more of like an 8-minute mile, did the 3 exercises, and then I was able to go harder on the last run instead of being completely smoked. So it was a little bit more about re-strategizing than pushing harder and doing better.
Right. So you were saying, so at high school and at school you were basketball and American football, and then you shed the weight straight away just as you came out of university, or what happened? What persuaded you to get into endurance and DEKA and Hyrox?
Yeah, honestly, it wasn't like shedding the weight wasn't really like a matter of, I guess it was fitness. Like, I would go to the gym, but in between my first year and second year that summer, I did landscaping. So I literally would just like wake up, go to the gym, and like landscape for most of the day. And like kind of naturally that weight came off, which is what I wanted. But a friend of mine and I, who was my roommate, we were just kind of into just general fitness. My dad had done a triathlon that was rowing in a canoe down a river, and then it was a bike and a run. It was like a sprint distance. And we were like, hey, like, let's just do this. It could be something fun we could do together over the summer. So we did that one summer. I think it was the summer of 22. And I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. Like, I enjoy running, being in shape makes me feel good. So I started doing a couple like 5Ks, 10Ks just to see. I did my local turkey trot, and that was fun.
That's a Thanksgiving 5K, right?
Yeah, Thanksgiving 5K. And then I was like, you know what? Like, I'm enjoying running. Let me just sign up for a marathon. And my friend was going to do it with me. Should we have done a half marathon first? Probably, but we were both training for it. He got injured right away. So he kind of dropped out, but then I kept doing it, trained for it, and had a goal of, I think, sub 345, but I didn't really know anything about nutrition or pacing. I was just kind of, I would train with like applesauce and just like some liquid IV. I didn't know anything about that. So my 345 goal turned into like 458. Like, I completely blew up, and I was like, I'm never doing this again. And a couple weeks later was the triathlon again, the sprint one. So my friend and I did that, and I'm like, you know what? I actually enjoy this. And I'd been seeing, from being in that triathlon prep, all sorts of stuff about this thing called Ironman. And I was like, what is that? And then I looked at the distances, and I'm like, there's no way. My uncle was like, hey, I have this, old race bike. Would you want it for triathlon? Sure. I don't really have a background in any of the 3 disciplines, but I've started running. I feel like I could pick up biking. The hardest part would just be like learning how to swim well. I could swim, but it wasn't pretty. I'd swim 50 meters and just have to get out of the pool and be like I just it was difficult. But I signed up for my first 70.3 which was in May of 2024 in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Did like a 9-month prep because I knew I would need that. And that was a lot of swim classes, swim workouts, open water swimming, trying to swim in the wetsuit. The biking and the running was okay to learn, but I don't know what it is. I don't really run with like headphones in or any of that. I just kind of enjoy being able to sit in low, steady state cardio for a little while. So I did that. I got around like 6:08, which for my first one, I just really wanted to finish. I wanted to, as soon as I got out of the water, I pointed to my dad who was in the crowd and was like, yes, because the swim was the thing I was most nervous about. And I was like, you know what? Once I'm on land, then we can try and finish this. So that was a triathlon in May.
And remind us again of the distances involved in that.
So the swim is 1.2 miles, the bike is 56 miles, and then the run is 13.1 miles.
So half marathon to finish, and 6:08, which sounds an absurdly long amount of time, but not a long amount of time given what you had to do.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah. I mean, it's a long time to be doing anything, but for completing so that's half Ironman effectively, right? A full triathlon, right? Which is still, I can't imagine doing that.
And then in February, so a couple months before the 70.3, I had done a Spartan race the summer prior, just for fun, like why not? And I discovered this thing called DEKA, and I was like, oh, running and strength, like that kind of sounds interesting to me. And there was a DEKA mile in Pittsburgh where my dad's family's from, so I was like, you know what, I'll just sign up for this and I can go up there, see some family. Well, then my dad was like, oh, you know what, I'll just go with you. So I did the DEKA mile, and then we signed up DEKA mile teams as well.
You and your dad?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So he'd never really done anything like that, and neither had I. But we were like, you know what, like it's just what is it, like 100-meter run or something like that? I forget what the exact distance is. But it's the station and it's the run, and we can split it. And we're like, you know what, just a fun thing, let's do it. I wasn't very good at it. The stations, I had practiced a little bit, but I wasn't really efficient, especially like the ram burpees and whatnot. The box step overs, I mean, I almost ate it a couple times, but the running was good and I enjoyed it. And then I looked more into it later on that year. There was DEKA Fit in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I did that, which is where I qualified for Worlds in 24. And then from then on, it was just, oh, look, here's Hyrox. Oh, look, here's this. I like to be a fitness generalist. And along the way, did a couple marathons, a couple ultra marathons, and then
ultras as well. Crikey. Okay.
So I've only gotten to the 50K distance. I want to do maybe a 50 miler at some point, but I have to remind myself that I have time and I can't just be in like a Hyrox triathlon and ultra prep all at the same time. Like I just gotta pace myself, choose goals. Otherwise I'm not going to do well at any of them.
So the fact that you're training for the Cleveland Marathon in May, you said, how's training for a marathon changed your training compared to training for a Hyrox or a DEKA?
Yeah, so it's definitely running a little bit more. When I was just training for Hyrox, I'd try and run 5 days a week. One of those I'd have be a outdoor track workout specific, more of like 1K repeats with maybe a minute of rest in between, or like a tempo workout where I'm like a 2-mile warm up, 5 miles of a tempo effort, that kind of thing. But with the marathon prep, it's running probably 6 days a week. The mileage will probably increase to, I think at peak it'll be 60, which I haven't hit that number in a week a lot, but I think that I want to go sub 3 hours in the marathon. So I think being able to hit that 60 miles in a week will get me there. Um,
So you want to go sub 3, and your marathon debut was 4:52, you said?
Correct. Yeah.
Wow.
So
That would be amazing.
I did a 3:44 the other year, but the cusp of this is, so I did two 70.3s this year. One was in September and one was in October. And both of them,
you did Ironman a month apart.
yeah, so I did 70.3 Michigan September 14th, I think, and then 70.3 North Carolina October 25th. Yeah, so I did a build, race, a little bit of maintenance, and then a race. But both of those races, the half marathons that I ran, were right around that 1:30 mark. And that was after obviously having swim and biked. So I was like, you know what, that could be doable if I put in a good prep. But I still do. I have, I forget when it is. I think it's sometime late February. I'm doing a pro solo Hyrox in Vegas. I did that one this year in 2025. So I have that in the calendar.
And how do you fit that all in with everything else going on in your life? I mean, are you training full time at the moment? Are you studying, working? What else is going on that you have to juggle? And how do you fit it all in? Because I mean, the training for a marathon, and especially for anything longer than a marathon, is insanely committed. I know I kind of felt half ruined training for a marathon a few times.
Yeah, so I work since July 2024. I've worked full time. I work for an investment consulting firm out of Cincinnati, where I'm on their private equity research team. So we'll look at the best private equity funds and we'll recommend them to our clients who are like primarily not-for-profit institutions like university endowments, community foundations. We have some healthcare systems, that kind of thing. So I enjoy that work. So usually I will wake up in the morning and run, get my run workout knocked out, work the kind of 8 to 5-ish range. And then after work, it's usually kind of go to the CrossFit gym, either do something more CrossFit focused, a Hyrox session, strength, whatever I'm training for at the moment. When it was in triathlon, it was heading off to the pool or heading to the trail to go on a bike ride. So that is kind of usually when I get my other modality work in.
It's two solid workouts a day, 5-6 days a week.
Yeah, I would say like Fridays especially, I will just try and do like a super easy run, or maybe I'll do an easy bike ride, keep that day just light. But I try and do 2 sessions every day for 5 days at least out of the week. Sometimes it can be 6, but usually it's 5. Then other 2 days is just kind of one easier, or maybe that's like my Saturday long run, and that's all I'll do. It just depends.
Wow. So you've got marathon in May, and then what have you got laid out for the rest of the year? Have you got the rest of the year planned in terms of which races are going to be your A races the rest of the year?
Yeah. So I think I liked being able to do DEKA Fort Wayne because it was in Indiana, very close to me. But I think I'm going to do DEKA Chicago. People have asked me if I want to do a full Ironman at some point, which I do, but it's such a time commitment that that's like a whole other job.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think at this stage, I just kind of want to wait for that a little bit. Like I like doing Hyrox and DEKA and strength training and doing CrossFit. And I feel like if I was to do the full Ironman, I would have to dial all of those back significantly. And I just don't want to do that at this point. So I think this year will be a year of probably mainly DEKA and Hyrox and marathon. So
it's enough to be getting on with. And so for the DEKA Worlds, are you going to be still in the under 24 age bracket for this World Championships? Are you looking to do that, or what are you looking to what categories are you looking to qualify in?
Yeah, so I'll be 24 in this upcoming April, so I guess technically I still would be in that age group.
Yeah.
I have set myself the goal of trying to qualify via the elite in this 2026 Worlds. Whether that happens obviously remains to be seen, but that was after running, I think it was like 32:50 or whatever I ran. I kind of was like, you know what, I want to set a goal to be able to qualify for that. So I think that'll be one of the biggest goals for me this year.
Be fun to, if Jude's able to qualify, it'd be fun to see you race against him again. And you mentioned earlier that you think of yourself as kind of a hybrid racing generalist. So and that your main events this year are Hyrox Vegas, qualifying for DEKA, and then the DEKA Worlds in December, and Cincinnati Marathon. I mean, are you looking to do any other hybrid races?
Yeah, so like you had mentioned earlier, there's the thing called the Deadly Dozen. I've heard a little bit about that. One of my doubles partners who lives in Texas, he did one of them. And then Jude had told me about it. So I've been looking at that a little bit. The closest one has been Chicago, but I need to look into that a little bit more. I don't know. I'm easily convinced to new things. So TBD.
Awesome. Okay. Well, hopefully we'll see you in December, if not before. And I suspect we'll also see you in Stockholm in June for the Hyrox Worlds.
That's the hope. We shall see. But yeah, that would be a big goal too.
So at least I should be seeing you at the Hyrox Worlds and the DEKA Worlds this year, and then we'll keep track of how you get on. Obviously in Vegas and at the Cincinnati Marathon, where you're hoping to go sub 3. You said
sub 3 is the goal. Yes, sir.
Awesome. Well, really appreciate your time, Ethan, and again, excited to keep track of how you get on this year. And congrats again on the World Championship win at DEKA Fit in December. Great to see you do that, and all the best for this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Great
Thanks
to be
a lot.
on.
Cool, man. And you can find Ethan on Instagram at E_D49. E_D49. Ethan Deep on Instagram. And just to mention that as of right now, he's 9 followers away from the magic 1,000 figure where he can live stream stuff. I don't even know if he wants to live stream himself, but if he wanted to, he's 9 away, so you could help him out with that. And now on to Jude's interview with Timothy, or Dad. Hope you enjoy.
I'm here with my granddad, aka my dad's dad. This is sort of the man who made me famous because the most viewed video on my Instagram is of what we're going to get to in a little bit is with me, my dad, my friend, and my granddad here, all partaking in a relay in London, in a Hyrox, and it is just by far my most popular video. People seem to really love it. I had people mention it to me for weeks after, and then telling you about it, Grandad, you didn't really seem to understand what it meant that it got 25,000 views.
No, but it sounds pretty cool to me.
Yeah. So, as a little bit of background, who are you? And, well, other than being my granddad, who are you? And what was your experience of your first Hyrox?
Okay, well, my name's Timothy Reynolds. I've been, for most of my life, a teacher, but also a Baptist church pastor, and worked in publishing for a few years as well. Now I'm fully retired, except for all this fitness stuff, which seems to get heavier as I get older. Hyrox, well, I understand you and your dad had plotted to get me involved in a Hyrox team. Was it called team or relay? I can't remember.
Relay, yeah.
Relay, yeah. 4-person relay event. And I understand that your dad decided that it was best if you asked me because you'd be more likely to get a yes out of me than him.
And it worked.
I'm more used to telling him, no, you can't do that, boy.
So with the race itself, so I came to him one day and I was like, listen, I think I gave you about 2 weeks notice. I was like, this is the event, the thing that, I dedicate my life to, this and that.
Yeah.
Do you want to do it? You've only got to do 2 runs. You've only got to do 2 stations. We'll get into sort of your current training in a little bit, but what I gave you to do was the row erg and the ski erg, so the 2 safest stations, or yeah, the 2 easiest to learn stations. So what did you think when I asked you about it, and what did you think about like sort of the 2 stations I'd asked you to do?
Well, at first I was quite anxious that the notice was very short, and I'd never been on a rowing machine before, and I'd never touched a ski erg before in my life. But when I tried it out, I realised I could do it. It wasn't that alien to me. Although, in fact, in my daily or weekly fitness program, if you can give it such a name, I didn't actually use the sort of strength that I needed to do those things, except in my core maybe, but not in my arms. I do press ups, as we call them in the UK, but I don't do any pull ups, and both of these involved a lot of pulling with your arms rather than pressing. So, and I think I had 2 or 3 little training sessions with you, and I thought, well, I'm not very good at it, but I can do it, and I can run because I run every week, 3 days a week at least. Well, usually 3 days a week. So I thought, well, I'll give it a go.
And I think that was I did not expect it. Like I wasn't sure if you'd say yes or not. But I think once I got you a little bit, I wouldn't even say familiar. Once I introduced you to the ergs, you seemed to sort of pick it up relatively quickly. I mean, like you said, you touched the row erg twice before we raced and the ski erg twice before we raced. I showed you the form for like half an hour in total, and then just sort of let you figure out what pace you're going to look to hold for that 1,000 meters that it is in the race. So it was really cool to see you like adjust to and just accept the challenge that was probably extremely foreign to you. Um, in terms of the race itself, like the venue experience and racing in the race that we did, how did it feel during the runs, during the row, during the ski? If you could like sort of take us through what you were thinking and especially during that first run that that we remember.
The disastrous first run. Well, I was extremely nervous. But I also realised I just needed to let people go at the beginning and not try to keep up with them because they were going to far outpace me. I mean, they're all about half my age or less.
Yeah.
And you took me through, I had to pass go or whatever you call it, the entry point.
In.
So that, I had to pass that once. I had to pass it twice. And then I had to go in. And I thought, okay, you took me through that and you made me repeat it back to you, which I did. Very good teaching method, Jude. But when it came to it, I completely lost where I was. It was bizarre. It's a really weird experience. There was even a clock beside the place I had to go in that told me if I'd run anything like my normal time, I was due to go in there. But I just didn't believe it. My mind said, no, you haven't passed this place enough times. And you and your dad and your friend were like 30 yards away, screaming and yelling at me. And I thought, it's wonderful to have such support. And on I went, not realizing you were calling me to go in. So on that last lap, I should have only, I did an extra lap of the circuit. And I really thought, this is really tough. Why is this so hard? Because I'd been running at the pace I expected to go for a kilometre, wasn't it? And I was doing an extra, 0.4 or something of a kilometre, I can't, or 0.3,
Probably.
something like that.
Yeah.
And that really was tough. And I was really puzzled. And then I came to the ski erg, and at least there was nobody else there. I was the last one in, obviously. And at least then I didn't need to use my legs, so that was good. And I felt I was able to adjust to, I thought I could go a bit faster, but I realised I was going to run out of lung before the end if I did, so I just sort of tempered it a bit. And
So with your skier, did you find that obviously being very unfamiliar with the form, did you feel like it was your lungs or it was your muscles that started hurting first?
well, I thought that I was going to run out of lung, actually. That's when I felt I was going too fast, that my muscles were taking me further than my lungs could take me.
Oh, right.
Um,
Okay.
but that may be because I just run too far, and be more on the edge of what I could do in the running, and that may be why that was. And I was using my arms now, which hadn't been doing anything much up to then. But
You
you
must have
taught me.
thought that was an extremely long kilometer.
Yeah, it felt terrible. I thought, why is this? It feels like I'm running in treacle. I'm just yes. It was really weird, and I've since discovered that lots of people do this. They lose track. Even your dad said the other day, I think in a podcast that he only had to do 2 laps and he lost count on one occasion. So it
He's
scrambles your
special
mind.
like that.
It does seem to scramble your mind. It's really weird.
Yeah, definitely. So After the ski, you then ran out. You had that little bit of exchange where you then tagged my dad. My dad
Hmm.
went, did the push. He came, ran back, tagged Zaid for the pull. He came, ran back, tagged me for the burpees. I came, ran back, and tagged you for the row.
Yeah.
So the run and then the row, how did that feel?
Well, I thought it was hard going, but it was fine. You know, I felt I wasn't pushing myself to the very limit. I wasn't on the edge of feeling I had to stop. And when I got onto the rowing machine, um, I felt I kept it going pretty well. And the only thing was when I got up to go, I tried to go out the entrance, and
I have a good video of that.
so
Wh-
yeah,
Which, by the way, my dad did in the exact same way in Vancouver, just gone on the ski erg.
okay, yeah.
Yeah,
So
so like son, like father, he did the
yeah,
exact same thing.
and I
Except
could
he
see,
wasn't two stations deep, he was one station in, and he still did it.
okay. Well, I could sense the stewards being very kindly and thinking, "Oh, this poor old geezer, he doesn't know where to go."
But you
And
did get saved by the judges there. They did
yeah,
sort of physically stand in your way.
they did. Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So that's really cool. With sort of you mentioned earlier about you run X amount per week. What's sort of your training regime in a week? Like, do you run? Do you do weights? What does a week look like in your training?
Yeah, I don't touch a weight at all. Um, my what I've done for 40 odd years is I've run 3 times a week. I used to run a lot trail running because we lived where we lived. We lived on the edge of town where I could easily run through fields and through over hills and footpaths. And the next place we lived was very similar. It was very quick to get out into the countryside, so I could do a lot of trail running. But where we are here, although we're near open woodland, it's so rutted and so full of roots and things that are such a trip hazard. I've stopped trying to run mostly. I run a few times just because I enjoy it in the summer, but it gets so wet in the winter and it's so rutted and so full of rocks and trip hazards of all sorts that I run mostly street running now, almost entirely street running. Certainly all through the winter it's street running. And I basically do a program that I picked from training for half marathon. I downloaded a training program which was involved running what they call a tempo run, which they say was a sort of 80% effort for a certain amount of time or distance on one day. Then the next day, that I do on a Tuesday, I do 2 miles, sort of 80% effort for 2 miles. Then I do on a Thursday, I do intervals. So I do at the moment it's 2.6 miles of interval running, and I do my intervals just by paces. I do double paces, so counting every left foot. I do 75 sprinting and 100 jogging, and I just alternate that back and forth.
Well, that's interesting. So you don't calculate it by distance, you calculate it by foot contact on the ground.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. I just find that
Ah.
easier. Um, and yeah, having to keep check of a watch and not, I often don't hear the bleep on the watch, so it tells me that the distance is up.
Mm.
So I find it easy just to count by the foot contact. And then what I say, my long run, which used to be when we first moved here to where we are now about 6 years ago, I was running 5 to 6 miles on a Saturday morning. That counted my long run. It's now down to about 4 miles. Since COVID, that seems to be, and since getting older, it seems to be what I can cope with now. So that's what it is. So I do 2 miles, sort of tempo running on a Tuesday, 2.5, 2.6 miles intervals on a Thursday, and 4 miles, just a longer run through to the next village and back on a Saturday.
Wow. And sort of, probably should have asked this at the start, but how old are you?
I'm 75.
Because
Yeah,
apparently I said that you were 80 something in a
you
podcast,
did.
but I didn't.
You did say I was 84, I think, when I was actually
Yeah, I don't know
74.
why I said that because I've never thought you were 80 something, so I don't know why I said that. Because my
Yeah.
dad said, yeah, a granddad told me that you said this, and I was like, what? He's not 80 something, and he's like, well, you said it. So I don't remember that at all. But yeah,
Okay.
definitely not
Okay.
84, 74. Um, and just to sort of wrap it up, sort of a two-part question. One is do you want to do another Hyrox with us? Because I'm very keen to do another one. And then the second part of that question is, do you think we can beat our time from London?
Okay. Can I go back and say what actually I do for the rest of the week? Because I forgot to mention that. I only mentioned
Oh,
the
yeah,
runs.
yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
In fact, when I started doing regular weekly training, fitness training of some kind, I started with a fitness program that was devised by and for the Canadian Air Force. It's called the 5BX program for men. The women's program is called XBX program, and it's actually what King Charles apparently uses. It was publicised around the time of his
Really?
diagnosis with cancer. They said, "Oh, well, he's fit, you know, and
Right.
he does this 5BX Canadian Air Force program." Well, I picked this book up in a local bookshop in where we lived. 40 odd years ago, and have followed it. You know, you work your way up from the bottom, and it takes you up to different levels for different ages. And I worked my way up to, when I was in my 30s, I worked my way up to the flying crew level for a 39-year-old, and I just stopped there, and I kept going at that level. And I'm more or less still going at that level, with the only difference that I'm slower. I do the same reps, but when it comes to running, whether outdoors or walking outdoors or running on the spot, which are the different things, I don't do them as quickly as I'm supposed to do. Otherwise, I've kept the same program going. So I do that 3 times a week, interspersed with the running. So I have a 6-day program that's 1 day running, next day the 5BX program, next day running, and so on.
Really good sort of mix with strength training. Like, although you don't use weights, you're still using, for those of you that don't know, calisthenics is basically body weight movements, push-ups. He doesn't do them, but the pull-ups, sit-ups, stuff like that. That's all sort of encompassed in calisthenics. And just out of interest, how many push-ups in one go can you do?
Right. Well, up to a few weeks ago, I was sort of not doing strictly proper push-ups or press-ups, as we call them in the UK. I was doing 40 a day, but I was told, and I realised I wasn't getting as low on them as I should. So 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, I decided I would go back to doing them properly, and I do 25 a day of proper touching the floor with my chest.
Wow.
So that's and flying crew is 39-year-old flying crew is supposed to do 24. So I think I'm doing fairly well.
So you can do 25 without any breaks?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I need to I need to see that. I've never seen that. Okay, I need to see a 74-year-old do that. That's pretty
Okay.
impressive.
Okay.
And yeah, that's that sort of double-headed question just to finish things off.
Yes. Sorry. Yes.
No, you're good. Thank you. That was actually really interesting. I forgot that you work out 6 times a week. I want to ask you, one, will you do another relay with us? Granted that you'll be doing the row and the ski. And then two, do you think we can beat our time that we did in London of 1:17?
I would say definitely yes, for 2 reasons, and that is because I messed up last time. And so, because I messed up last time, I want to do it. I want to have a go at doing it properly. And because I messed up last time, we're bound to be better next time, because I dragged you back by a minute or two last time by running an extra lap.
This is the time where one of us is now going to run the extra lap and then lose our time because the laps are going to be longer or something.
But your extra laps will be quicker laps than mine.
Yeah. But I mean, that would be awesome. I'm just personally looking forward to the views that I'm going to accumulate after a race with part 2. But I've seen so many people put out on Instagram. So many people. I've seen a lot of organizers reach out and be like, "I haven't seen a 3-generation Hyrox. If anyone has done it, let me know." And we've been messaging. We're like, "We've done it. We've done it. We've done it." I've not seen anyone else do it. So I think that's super cool. And then if we can sort of get Zaid back in, run the same stations, try and beat our time, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, I'm up for that very much. Yeah.
Good to hear. All right, so that's it from this interview today, and thank you, Grandad, for coming.
You're welcome. It's a great pleasure and a privilege to be on your podcast.
See you guys later.
Okay, bye.
Thanks, Dad. And good luck finding him on social media. But I'm sure, as Jude says, that Jude will be including plenty of footage of my dad for our next 3-generation Reynolds relay. Next week, we're playing our interview with Adam Smith from Flat Out, which is a UK hybrid fitness race. So it was great chatting with him. and excited to see what happens to them in 2026. So thank you again for listening to today's show. Please do like and subscribe on whatever podcast platform you use. And just a reminder, you can also find us on Instagram at Hybrid Fitness Report. And if you could review us on your podcast platform, that would be really helpful. Everything just helps get visibility for the show. So that would be awesome.